Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Authentic Encounters, the series where we take you through the stories behind the players, casters, artists, and other members of the Grand Archive community. Along the way, we'll be glimpsing their ideal opening hands. I'm Nathan from Advanced Elements, and today I'm joined by prominent sea caster Flonne. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. I'm finally done with school, so I've just been in a vegetative state, I guess. I guess the one thing is that Akihabara is happening, and I'm really bummed that I'm not going, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what everyone's got cooking up.
As of the time of recording, Arki is happening this weekend, about a week away, a little less than a week actually. A lot of us are flying out in the next couple of
5 days.
days. Everyone's planning their trips. Everyone's talking about what they're doing in Japan. So anyone that's not going is yeah, feeling a little left behind, I'm sure. Alright.
I mean, like I'm actually like this close to just like impulse buying a ticket and going to Japan anyway. So I don't know. Maybe by the time this comes out, it's like, oh, I actually was there.
Yeah, we'd love to see you there. If you could make it, we'd love to see you there. And there's still tickets available, so anyone buying last minute tickets
Yeah,
can definitely show up.
yeah. It's really the hotels, right? It's like that's the
Yeah.
trouble. Booking
Alright.
a hotel like 5 days or actually like 3-4 days before.
Before we get too much deeper, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, can you give me an introduction of yourself?
Okay, so hello, I'm Flonne. I am a caster. I've been casting this game since like March of 2024, so it's been a while. I mostly am locked to like Southeast Asian events. I've only done one OC event, which is because I moved here recently to Australia, so I did Ascent Auckland. But before that, I've basically just been casting like I've been in every single major event in Asia basically since the first one.
Yep.
So yeah, it's been a fun time. I never really expected to do this. It just kind of ended up happening.
Yeah, so she recently cast Ascent Auckland, Taipei, KL, CNETs, I'm sure like a number of regionals as well in C. And if you want to find her in any of these events, it's normally not too hard. Just look for the best dressed on the day.
Thank you.
Alright.
I try.
Let's pedal back all the way to the beginning. So, how and when did you first get into Grand Archive?
Okay, so I got into Grand Archive basically when Doa Alter came out. So I was just looking for a card game to play because I've only ever really played one card game in person, and it was Vanguard in like 2012. So it was like ages ago. And then so back in like during the pandemic, I got kind of into Yu-Gi-Oh content creators for some reason. So me and my friends, we would like play Yu-Gi-Oh like online and like the simulators and stuff, like the free ones. And then I was like, well, I kind of want to like play a new game as it comes out, right? When you play a game that's already been out for like 2-3 years, I feel like there's all this like baggage and like it's like any even like live service games like MMOs and stuff, right? It's like it kind of sucks to be there a bit late because everyone else is like established and they know everything. So I was like, I want to get into a card game when it comes out. So I looked up card games coming out in like 2023, and I found the main deck Dan's video about it, where it's like top 5 card games to look at or something. And Grand Archive was on the list, and it was the one that caught my eye because I'm a weeb. So I like anime, but I also don't really like Japanese card games gameplay wise. So I was like, oh, the fact that it's a Japanese card game, or it's a game with Japanese art style, but it has like the Magic the Gathering ish kind of gameplay appealed to me. And yeah, it's like it was coming out, like the community seemed really great. So I was like, okay, I'm interested in playing this card game, but I didn't think it was actually gonna show up in the Philippines. But when I was in Australia during that time for my sister's wedding, I was like, okay, I'll go to the card shops and just see if they have it, and they had it. So that's how I got into Grand Archive, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I think that's like the biggest selling point for new people getting to the game is it's a Western, design balanced type card game. So if you like 2 3s instead of 2000s or whatever, then it kind of gets you there. But then if you like the anime art style a little bit more, then you stick around for that too. It's definitely what caught me into the game too. So yeah, good to see that's a pretty common experience. But that's how you got into the game. What about the game kind of kept you around?
Well, for one thing, the game when it came out first was not that expensive, which is kind of important for me because I don't like spending money on things. And most of the card games that are, I mean, like Japanese card games are usually not that expensive, but like if you compare it to like, I don't know, Magic or Flesh and Blood or something, those games are like really expensive. So the fact that GA, it's like, since it was so new, it was really like decent entry level. Number two, it's just nice to be in a community when you're like, it's just in its infancy. Because now it's like, oh, you know, it's like kind of everyone knows each other. It feels a little bit more personal, a bit more intimate. And I like that. And I like the idea of it's like, oh, you know, you're here from the start. So it's like, as the game continues to grow, if it can, you know, if it survives, right? It's like, it would be like, oh, you're one of like the elders. And I kind of enjoyed that. And of course, the gameplay, it's like, I like things like the memory system, for instance. I like that you didn't have to track a bunch of stuff with dice, for example, like in other games, right? It's like, let's say like lore or Shadowverse. It's like, oh, you know, you have to count this other stuff. But in GA, it's like it's very intuitive, where it's like, oh yeah, it's just the cards in your hand. I really like the idea of the material deck and like leveling up. That was like the one thing about Vanguard, which I really enjoyed, is like the idea, oh, it's like you, like as the game progresses, you are changing or like evolving. And I always like that part of it. So having a game where it's like, oh, it's like that, but then like you have a champion and they like progressively get more and more complex. I really enjoyed all that stuff. So yeah, that was like the stuff that really like, got me into it. And of course, I got my friends into it. And that's really the number one thing with card games, is the community, the friends, right? It's like having people to play with.
Yeah, I think the theming and flavor in this game is pretty good. And then I think for me, I actually can relate to that a lot as someone who also joined. I mean, I joined kind of middle of FTC-ish. So for me, it felt like that like 4 or 5 months that some people had before me felt like the biggest head start in the world. But these days, you know, I'm a bit of an old head, and I mean, back then the community was much smaller, and exactly like you said, just you could become a core part of the community just by coming to locals every week, because it was only, you know, 4 to 6 people, and if you showed up every week, you got to know everyone really well. And you know, these days, pretty much everyone in you know Sydney that plays the game knows who I am. So yeah, being part of that community, like the building process, is really really cool, and definitely part of what kept me in the game too. Let's push forward and draw our first card into your opening hand. So anyone who doesn't know how this works,
Okay.
I've gotten Flonne here to pick 7 cards that we'll draw into her opening hand. The criteria is completely up to her, open-ended, and we'll just see what she picks out. So tell me, what is going to be card number 1?
Okay, so my first card is a card that you wouldn't have in your opening hand because it's a material deck card, and that's Grand Crusader's Ring.
Grand Crusader's Ring. That's a really, really interesting choice. Really cool choice. The first ever Divine Relic in the game. The most played Divine Relic in the game. Well, I mean, people love this card. It's just so nice to be able to get an extra card. But why specifically for you is this the first card?
As far as Divine Relic goes, I think GCR is like a little bit vanilla, but the reason it has sentimental value to me, because the first box of Grand Archive I opened, I was in Melbourne, because Sydney was sold out. They had no boxes of Alter left. So I was like, okay, well, when I'm in Melbourne, we were on vacation there, and it was like, oh, I'll just see if they have a box. I bought one impulsively, and it was my first UR. It was Grand Crusader's Ring. So I was like, oh, I guess I'm playing this game now. I got like the one good hit, right? Because at that point, most of the other URs in the set were not very good.
Yeah, they're all super dead. It's like Luxurious Map, Gaia's Blessing, and there's like the 2 other good ones as well.
I think Majestic Spirit's Crest.
Yeah.
Was
and then there's
still being played because that was before they changed the rules about waking up when you
of course,
level up.
yeah.
So it was like, oh, like, you know, the Reigns, they were playing like the infusion builds where they would like infusion just like smack you like 5 times in one turn. But yeah, I was like, oh, the fact that I got like the highest valued card in the set was kind of like, oh, I guess I have to play it now, right? Like I have to commit now.
Yeah, I've definitely said it before, but I feel like that's a lot of people in this game. Is if you get a good hit in your first, you know, few packs, box, whatever, you know, 2 boxes. For me, it was my first 2 boxes, and then I bought a case, and I got another good hit there. But like anyone that gets good luck in that first opening experience, they're just stuck in the game. Another one trapped by good luck, huh? This is gambling. I'm gonna push back to growing the scenes. So you spent most of your early days in this game in the Philippines, right?
Yeah, so I got into the game in May, and then when I came back to the Philippines, I was actually fully intending to be like, okay, I'm never gonna play this game back in like my home country, right? It's like, because I really was not expecting anyone to pick it up. So I was gonna be like, okay, this is something I play when I'm in Australia. But then obviously that's not really great. It's like you only get to play a game like what, in a month, maybe 1 or 2 months within a year. It's not really conducive. Luckily, somehow one shop decided to pick up the game, and it happened to be like really, really near where I live. It was like maybe 15 minutes away. And I was like, oh, wow. It's like, I think my cousin is the one who tipped me off on it. I got all my friends interested into it. So, you know, TrueSight, which is my team, by the way, for those who don't know, they don't usually perform so well that people know their names, but they did have some members go to Worlds last year. So, I mean, actually this year. Worlds, I forget
earlier
that
this
Worlds
year,
is still this year.
Yeah, they had a good performance at CNETs.
And yeah, you know, 3 of them made it to Worlds, and then they all like went like 0-7 or whatever. But yeah, so basically, like, I just got all of my like Yu-Gi-Oh friends, which were basically my high school friends. Like, hey, like, there's this card game that's coming out. It's like they're all weebs also, so it's like perfect. From there, it's like as the weeks went by, it's like people just disappeared. So maybe it's like that day, maybe there was like 20, 25, 30 people there. And then it became like 10 people, and then it became 5 people, and it was literally just us. So for like the first, I want to say up until FTC comes out, basically the only people coming to play Grand Archive were me and my friends.
Wow, yeah.
So it was, I don't really know how we stuck with it for that long when it's like we're just playing against the same people over and over again. And I was just destroying everyone because I'm the only person who had Dungeon Guide because I bought the Prelude starter decks. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
everyone's playing with like Sylvie without Dungeon Guide, and I'm playing like Rai with Dungeon Guide and Reckless Conversion. And it's like, it was definitely an experience. And then during FTC, out of nowhere, it's like a bunch of stores started to get interested in it. And we started to do that thing that you do when your card game is new, where you go to like every single local and every single store that's holding the game. And we would go to all of them. It was exhausting actually because, you know, Philippines is traffic is really bad. So, and public transport is not great. So if you're going to go all the way to the, like deep into the city from where we live, it's like, it's really inconvenient, but we did it just because we really wanted to keep this game like, we wanted to show that the game was alive and that there was community for it. So during FTC, that's really when the game started to like get more and more popular. And then as the momentum just kept like going up into like ALC and MRC, it was a lot of fun. I do kind of miss those days where it's like literally like there was only like 5 to 10 of us who were playing this game. And now it's like the community in the Philippines is like decently large. Like
These
our
days-
regionals can hit like up to 100 people sometimes. It's definitely no slouch, and I think that's why we got an ascent.
Yeah, these days
Right,
the,
it's
the
like-
scene there is massive. What do you think it is that contributed to the success of the game there and also in the wider C region? Because it's like, it's the biggest region by player now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, C is really big. Obviously, I think in like Taiwan and Singapore, there's like a lot of other reasons, but at least in the Philippines, I think really it was just because there were a lot of really dedicated players who wanted to push the game, and also the stores. They really pushed for it because a lot of the stores that were holding GA were stores that were initially like Fab stores basically, and then but you know things happened where it's like, oh, you know, Fab kind of was moved on to like a different company that held them, because like most of these are just like independent stores that just like hold games that they find interesting. So it's like things like whatever like new game comes out, like say like something like Alter or like Cookie Run, right? Where it's like, okay, this is like a new game, like maybe it's not like necessarily gonna have the biggest fan base, but if a store pushes it really hard, what ends up happening is that you just get like this pool of players that come every week, and then from there it's like it kind of spreads, and then once one store has some success with the game, it's like others start to get interested. They really like worked hard to try and like spread the game around, and I think that was like a really big part of it. And you know, they would run big tournaments, they would run like non-regional tournaments that had like big cash prizes and things like that. Like I think this was during MRC where they ran like $1,000 cash pool region
Wow.
right? Just to like incentivize people to like come. Philippines is also one of the few regions that actually like streams their regionals and stuff, which is part of how I kind of got into the whole casting thing. So I think they just put a lot of effort, like the players and the store owners and the distributors and everyone. They really like pushed the game really hard. I think that's a big part of why it got so big so quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember C being, different parts of the C regions were like bigger or smaller, and then suddenly we just started hearing more and more that, you know, the Philippines regionals was suddenly, you know, 80 players, 100 players, whatever it was, and that you guys are also streaming it, which is again one of the few regionals being streamed. I think for anyone who wasn't there locally, it felt like a bit of surprise that all of a sudden the play numbers there were just taking off like crazy. I know there were also some other countries that felt like they really overperformed expectations, like, you know, New Zealand has a crazy player base from definitely what I expected. But definitely, yeah, the Philippines and some of C has really supported the game very, very hard. It's really good to see. Anyway, with that, I think we can push forward and crack open card number 2 to join your opening hand. So what will it be alongside a Grand Crusaders Run?
Okay, so I guess just to give like a little theme, I decided to pick one card from every set, just to like, you know, I've been here since the start, so I thought we have exactly 7 sets, not counting altars, so it's like, okay, might as well pick one from each just so we get a little bit of representation. So my second card is probably an unusual pick. It's Incendiary Fractal.
Incendiary Fractal. Personally, I love this pick. As someone that, especially in it was Fractal's metagame, I was just trying to find ways to beat Frostborn Paladin, and this was like one of the only efficient ways in the game to kill a Frostborn Paladin. And like the card is, definitely it's fallen out of play, and people have never really loved the card, but full mana like removal spells that also replace themselves, like soft replace themselves, I've always been a big fan of as a greedy value engine player, so I personally love this pick. But why don't you tell me why you picked it yourself?
So I'm the same way. For me, if my deck could be 60 cards that like are just juggle knives, I would do it and like still have like an actual game plan. Like I am the type of player where it's like if a card is not influence negative, I already automatically like it. So Incendiary Fractal to me was just this one weird choice. So during that FTC and even during Doha, during Doha I was like a Rai player. I only played Rai. And then during FTC, it's like I played Rai and Merlin. I would play this deck because everyone, especially in the Philippines, everyone was playing aggro decks because they were the cheaper option, right? You can't play Crux because we can't afford Ensols. We don't even have Pendragons in the country. So it's like, oh, everyone's playing aggro. So it's like I was always on Incendiary Fractal in my Rai or Merlin decks because it was like, oh, it's four cost, 4 damage, kills Frostborn, kills Aeson, and it also happens to replace, it's influence neutral in a sense by being a fractal. I really, really like the card, and so my first big tournament, like outside of the Philippines, was Malaysian Regionals, which was in October of 2023. And so when I went there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna play Merlin. I had Incendiary Fractal in my deck, and I got top 8. So that was like the first big like international, I guess, tournament. I mean, that tournament, I met Poan, I met Quarax, I met a bunch of the Apex Players Guild people. Like the entire top 8 was like 4 Apex Players Guild people, and then like a couple other like players I see like in all the Asian events. Back then, I didn't even know who they were, and then now it's like, oh, these are like literally legends of the game. And
That's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah. I mean, let's dive a little bit more into that. So I remember I looked at your Fractal event site. You played in the first CNATs. There's a few regionals there. I remember playing you in the finals of a Store Champs in Sydney. And you were quite good at the game. I mean, you mentioned winning a Store Champs, you mentioned top 8ing this regionals in Malaysia. What made you pick casting over playing? Because, you could be someone, I think, this is a conversation that's come up with judges a lot, where people prefer to play over judging if they, feel like they can get good results. It seems like, history seems to say that you definitely could play at a high level if you wanted to. Why did you choose leaning more into casting over playing? And maybe can we expect you to return to playing at any major events?
I think early on, like during like those days, like let's just say like Doha to ALC, I guess I was like one of the best players in the country. That really freaked me out. When people expect things of me, it puts a lot of pressure. I started to feel very anxious playing competitively because I'd be like, oh, if I do bad, then like my reputation is on the line. You know what I mean? So that was like an aspect. So I started to feel a lot more. I just really started to feel a lot more anxious when playing, like even in small things like locals. Even I would still feel because like if I lose in locals, it's like my rep as one of like the good players is like on the line. And then so the whole casting thing. What basically happened was during C Nationals, I played Luxem Xander, Fire Luxem Xander in CNATs, and I almost made it. Actually, I think if I played there's some games that are like stuck in my mind, right? Where I'm like, if I just didn't mess this one up, I would have won this.
I looked at your record.
I was like very
you
close.
were like 24th or something overall. You were like 1 point away from bubble, or like 2 points away from bubble.
After that, right? It's like a typical Nats ascent structure where it's like, oh, if you don't get in, you have a regionals on the second day for everyone who like basically like the scrubbed out of the event. I was like, okay, well, I don't really feel like playing. And I knew that they had a stream that had no commentators. So if you look at CNATs, the first one ever in 2024, it was literally just like the first day had no casters. It was just a stream. Since I knew about it, I was like, okay. I just asked Sildar, he was just there. I was like, hey, do you want someone to cast day 2 for you? Because if you don't have anyone anyway, so if you want someone to cast, I'm just not going to go to regionals and I'll just cast the event instead. And that's basically, they just agreed because they had no one doing it anyway. I guess they weren't worried about being a brand risk.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really
just,
cool.
Like anyone just offers. Yeah, and so to be fully transparent, my motivation for doing this was I wanted to go to Worlds, and since I knew obviously I'm not going to Worlds through as a player,
right?
I can go to Worlds as a caster. So I was like, because I knew that if you were a caster, they would pay for all your stuff, and I could definitely not afford to fly out to the US. It would not be financially responsible. So I was like, okay, let's just try to get in through casting, because especially at that time, the casting scene was incredibly small. Like there was barely any people doing casting. I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's open applications. Anyone can do it. I might as well give it a shot. I thought I'm pretty good at yapping. Like I talk a lot, and I think like my analytical ability is good. To be honest, casting as a job, it's not the thing I would think of just because I don't like being perceived by people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like showing my face. I don't like people hearing my voice. But then it was like, well, it's like there's the only way I'm getting the world, so I got to do it. So I decided, okay, might as well shoot my shot. I was already planning on doing it before Nats. I wanted to apply, but then there were no events to cast, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, am I gonna just grab like a random Ascent stream and then just like cast over it? So during CNATs, it was kind of perfect where it's like, oh, I can get like official tournament footage for my reel to make my application for that world.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's kind of the reason I did it.
That's really, really cool.
It was honestly very selfish. I was like, I just want to do this so I can go to Worlds.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, you know, a lot of good can come out of some selfish decision making, and I think like it's something that a lot of players think about a little bit. You know, they watch the live streams, they hear the casters, and they think about, you know, what would I say in this moment. Definitely, you know, it's something that I've thought about before. And yeah, I've even tried my hand a little bit at casting. Casting is really, really hard. So first thing I want to say is, especially, yeah, I mean, this game, I think casting is really, really hard. So a lot of respect to all of the casters. This game has like heaps of slow moments and downtime that make, you know, finding things to talk about very, very difficult. Personally, you know, I think I'm more interested in doing like co-streaming or something. Would be I would love to have the official broadcast on and then just, you know, watch party or something. I think that would be really, really fun. But being an official caster, I think it's too hard. It's too hard to find things to say. I don't know how you guys do it. I obviously have a lot of respect for casters, but I want you to try and sell me what makes casters important. What's their role? What do they bring to the broadcast?
Obviously, one thing is, it's just more entertaining to listen to a stream if there's someone talking. Like if you're just watching footage of people playing a card game, I think like 99% of people will just click off. Because unless they're super deep into the game already, one, if they don't know what these cards are or like what they're doing, it's like you don't have any idea what's going on. Like say I watch a random Riftbound tournament and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, right? Like I don't know what the strategy is. I don't know any of this stuff. So casters are really important because not only do they give like a good on-ramp for newer players, but they're also, even for experienced players, like maybe you don't necessarily know what this deck does, you don't necessarily know what this matchup is like. So just having someone talk through moments really helps to give like the drama of something, especially card games, right? I think it's not super obvious if something's exciting. Like I've always been into like fighting games, so I would watch a lot of fighting game commentary, and it's like I could literally just like not know anything about this game. It would still be fun to watch if it's like a close game. But if it's a card game, it's like I don't really know what's going on. I don't know when something exciting is happening because it's just people putting down cards on a table. So without like the caster getting excited, it kind of like loses a lot of that mystique.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I guess.
So I think that's the main thing.
If you wanted to make an analogy for like casting, it's less like sports or esports and more like if you want to watch the broadcast for the World Chess Championship or something, that's more turn-based, more, you know, break it down and figure out like what the important things are happening, or analyzing. Something that we see a lot from casters in this game is analyzing potential lines or future outcomes from the current board state, which is, you know, really, really interesting. And I think you, as someone who was a really good player, could probably still be a really good player if you wanted to be, really brings, you know, when you cast, you can really see the expertise of being able to think about the game at a high level come through. For you, what do you think makes someone a good caster? What traits, you know, bring out like what traits would you most want to have in someone if they were going to cast Grand Archive?
I'm gonna be real here, personal. This is just me. I really prefer people who are entertaining rather than informative. Like obviously you want someone who's both, but I would rather listen to and cast with someone who is energetic and good on the mic, even if their game knowledge is like, you know, not quite up to snuff. All of my favorite people I've casted with are people who just were good talkers. This is just my impression of what of the people who run the whole stream like network of Grand Archive. They advertise during EVO, which is a fighting game tournament, and I think they kind of want the cast to be more exciting, right? If you compare the like, let's say like Magic the Gathering casting, it can be a little bit buttoned up, a little bit dry. So I think they want it to be kind of like League of Legends, kind of like fighting games where it's like there's a lot of hype moments, there's a lot of screaming. So I think it's really important to have that kind of freedom to just like go off and like get excited and shout and like not be like super reserved person.
Yeah, nice to
while still having the game knowledge.
Build the atmosphere of the stream, get people engaged, that kind of thing, rather than, you know, just something that is catered towards the highest level of play. That makes a lot of sense. All right. Before we dive any deeper, I think it's time to pull back and have a look at card number 3 that'll be joining your opening hand of Grand Crusader's Ring and Incendiary Fractal. So, what'll it be?
Okay, so my third card here is going to be Gloamspire Black Market, the domain card that draws you a card every turn if you can...
Infinite value! Draw your entire deck, yes, people love this card. Some people hate this card, but it is, it's definitely in your deck either the best card or the worst card in the game when you draw it. So, yeah. Why in particular have you picked out Gloamspire Black Market for your opening hand?
In line with Incendiary Fractal, and you'll see in a lot of the other cards in my list, I just really like cards that are like influence positive or influence neutral. So I also just like domains. I don't know. I like domains. I've always been a Tenoris fan, and then I always doomer about how like bad the deck is. Gloamspire is just like it was this card that I just really loved, and I would throw it into every fire deck I could. Like my Rye deck I would play it in. Like Merlin, not really, but like my Rye decks I would always throw it in. I would try and like force it to like Luxem if I could. And I think on a sentimental level, during the CNAT stream, there was one Fire Umbra Diana player in there who was playing Gloamspire. So there were two Fire Umbra players who made it to day 2. One of which was Limelight, who won the tournament. He was not on Gloamspire, but there was another New Zealand or Australian player.
He was an Australian player.
They only played a game
we
before,
know him.
but yeah, and he was on Gloamspire. He was in a really weird build of Umbra Diana. It was like Serene Spirit, Gloamspire, like Hex Chaser and stuff like that. I was like, ooh, I really loved all those cards. So to see someone like have that, and so during the stream, it's like I feel like you can really sense how excited I am that someone's playing like Gloamspire. And it's like you're using the Gloamspire to trigger off like the Diana, the Creeping Torment effect, like things like that, like especially with Bubble of Abundance into Gloamspire, things like that. It was just like I was like super amped up, and it's like I think those were really great streams. And that first reel that I made for Worlds was a lot of that was from that game where it was like Merlin versus Umbra Diana, which was you'd think would be a very one-sided matchup, but it ended up being really close actually.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. And with the new rule change, Gloamspire is going to be significantly better. That card is going to be crazy good. With the hand size rule change that's coming up. All right, let's keep pushing forward though. I want to ask more about casting. So for you, how much prep goes into casting? Do you study like the cards, the metagame? Are you able to like look at deck lists between rounds, or like or how do you have an idea of what you need to know before you go into an event or a game?
So when preparing for an event, like before the event, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really do that much prep, or at least I think it doesn't feel like prep to me, because it's just something I naturally do anyway. Because I'm just always on Fractal of Insight, just looking at tournament reports. So I'm looking through all these cards, and I kind of just naturally like find these things. And then since I'm always like watching all the tournaments, I'm always seeing new stuff. I'm always looking for weird decks to like pill my my team on. And so naturally, it's like I just always am absorbing new information about the game. So I don't actually like do a lot of prep like specifically for tournaments. It's just like naturally. I think it is good if you have like an in with a very hyper competitive team, let's say like an Apex Players Guild. If you have connections with high level players, you could talk to them about it, and they can give you their insight as top level players, and you can learn so maybe like some of the secret stuff that people aren't really talking about. For example, like Fractals, right? Like I found out about Fractals because of Quarax. We just asked him.
Yeah,
like, hey,
right.
like, is this deck broken? And he's like, yeah, it's broken. And I'm like, okay, because like no one was playing Fractals until the first event, until everyone saw it's like, oh, okay, this is the deck, right?
Course,
When the first set came out, it's like I think a lot of people didn't necessarily like know, or even like Razor Gale, for instance, right? That's like the main prep. I also do like I ask people to pick a random card and just ask me its name, or like they'll give me the fact and I'll have to remember its name, things like that. That's one of the harder parts, memorizing all the cards.
I remember we were talking about some of the spoilers, and you spit out the name of the Alice Mastering, which I definitely still don't know. And it caught me off guard that anyone has committed that to memory already. You know, like I've got several positions, I've got shifting currents, but the Alice one, you know, I mean, maybe as a player, I'm not thinking about the next set yet, but I was really surprised that anyone has remembered that already.
It's become easier for me to just like remember random cards because I have to. I think I just have a good memory in general.
One other thing about casting that I'm curious about, these are long events, you know, these days they stretch on very long. I know if I talk for that long, my voice will be shot by the end of the day. So do you do like vocal exercises or warm-ups or anything to take care of your voice at these events?
Okay, I have a little bit of like a vocal background. Like I played woodwind instruments, and like I learned how to sing and stuff. I know some vocal care stuff. So I mean, one thing, obviously you have to drink water the whole event. If anyone who sees me during events will see that I go to the bathroom maybe like 12-13 times in a single day, because I literally am like drinking entire bottles of water every round. It's super important to keep yourself hydrated. It's also really good if you do vocal warm-ups, you know, like lip trills, and just like you can find them online. There's a lot of them. So usually I'll do them when I'm getting ready in the morning, like before the event, as I'm like, you know, it takes me a really long time to get ready. So I usually do them during like showering or like getting ready and everything. And then, but during the event, it's really important to do that, and also just resting. But I agree with you. Like the day I come back from an event is usually my voice is really hoarse. When I started casting, I always casted like alone. So I got really used to just talking to myself for like really long times. I mean, I'll get tired, obviously, but I don't really feel it until the event's over. Once the event's done, that's when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna crash. I'm like I can't like stay awake anymore.
That's fair. That's fair. I think I feel exactly the same way. I mean, as a player at these events, it's I mean a bit different. But every time I finish my last game of the day, like I normally play the last game and feel okay, and then I realize I'm out of the tournament. I don't need to play again, and then everything like my brain just decides it doesn't need to think anymore, and I'm barely functional for the rest of the day. So I can imagine for casting, it's probably very very similar, and you always have to have like you guys always have to stick around till the end of the event, which sometimes the untimed top cuts, sometimes they stretch on for long, long times. So, yeah, I imagine you must be completely done by the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the worst one I've had was Ascent Taipei this year because Ascent Taipei was 9 rounds day one because it was what 600 players, so it was 9 rounds instead of the usual 8. So it was like we ended at I don't know 11 p.m. or something. I was there from
Yeah.
8 to 11, and it's just like, and I did more rounds than I was supposed to just because it's like there were some games where it's like, oh, this put me on because like this is it's water Neo. It's like I have to be on for this game, so I did some extra rounds. So I was like, why am I doing this to myself? And then at the end of the day, I was just like, oh, we have to do this again tomorrow. Day 2 is always easier. I'll say that much because there's just less rounds, and I feel like because the quality of the games is presumably better. Presumably the games in Day 2 would be good because it's players who made it to Day 2 or the top 8. So it just ends up being easier.
One more thing I'm curious about from the casting perspective. Do you watch a lot of other sports, games, esports? Do you follow like the casting there, and how much overlap do you think there is between casting styles there versus Grand Archive?
So I watch a lot of like game tournament. I don't really watch sport like traditional like sports, but I watch a lot of game stuff. So obviously like I come from like fighting games, so I used to watch like a ton of those. So actually I feel like my casting style is more informed by that really than like other TCGs, because for me I'm more interested in making sure that the stream is exciting and like making sure that energy is high. And then I also watch League of Legends, same thing, right? It's like obviously analysis is important, but a lot of times what do people remember? It's someone shouting like pentakill for Huni or whatever. So since becoming a caster for Grand Archive, I've started listening to casts from other TCGs too. So it's like I watch a lot of Flesh and Blood because it's my other game that I enjoy. I watch Pokemon because their broadcasts are like insane. Those are like the main two. I don't really watch like other card games because Pokemon to me it's like, okay, this is like Hollywood, like big time, right? This is like about as high production values you can get. And then Fab to me is just like I just enjoy the game anyway, so I'm gonna watch it to begin with. And the casting I think in Fab is really good. I actually think Fab is I think the game is easier to cast just because of like the way the pace. Grand Archive being a more traditional card game, there's lots of people just like sitting there waiting. And like counting their cards.
For sure.
So you gotta go through especially because we don't have all the stuff that like Pokemon has like their crazy system where you can literally see the entire player's hand.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the full like, production value of it.
So
Yeah,
like,
yeah, cool.
Oh, the casters have full information. That's one of the hardest things about casting is like sometimes you just have to assume things, and you can't really tell because like players are like doing this the whole time, right? It's like I can't see the cards in your hand. I can't really like. I have to remember like what have I seen, and then every time you draw a new card, right, like it changes like the variables of like what could possibly be like the different lines you could do. And you're just kind of assuming because it's like, okay, if they have this, then they can do this. But it's like you don't actually know if they have that card. Right?
Yeah. I remember the last time I played on stream in St. Auckland, we reached like a complex game state, and I remember thinking like, oh, this is a really interesting game state, and I like put my hand forward and fanned up my cards because I was like, I can see this back on the cast later and figure out what I should have done here. But I mean, I remember game 2, it was a little bit more stressful, and I was definitely not thinking about what my hand looks like on the stream or anything like that. I was locked in on the game. So yeah, definitely, the stream, and I remember also casting we cast the elusive regionals, and that's a setup where obviously you're not supposed to see the player's hands at all, because if you see the player's hands, the opponent also sees the player hand, and so we have no information at all, and trying to read into any lines is really really hard. So I imagine the high production of Pokemon definitely helps them a lot. But yeah, speaking about other games, or I guess also in this game, I want to ask, who's your personal favorite caster in Grand Archive or in any other game anywhere?
In Grand Archive, I think my favorite caster is probably Main Deck Dan. I think he has energy, right? And to me, like I said, that's like the important thing to me. This is not like criticism or anything. I think Grand Archive casters tend to be a little bit lower energy. There's only a couple people I think that really can like elevate like the energy and like the hype levels. And so I think Dan is one of them. I personally think I'm one of them. I think a lot of the Asian casters actually, I think we tend to have a little bit more that spice. Dan, not only does he have that, but he also is very analytical and he has a great voice. And I think, just having a nice voice a lot of times is enough. There's some people where like legitimately they're just gatekept because they have a voice that people find grating. That's unfortunate, but that's just like the world, I guess.
Yeah, Dan is the whole package. That's nice. I think everyone loves.
Yeah,
Dan's
and I mean he's
casting.
gonna be in Akihabara, so
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, we'll put it off for a while, but I think it's finally time to pull out card number 4 into your opening hand to join GCR, Incendiary Fractal, and Glimpse by Black Market. So, Flonne, what will it be? Card number 4.
okay. So no surprise here. Probably the highest value ally they've released in the game. I'm picking Baby Gray Slime as my MRC representative. I guess technically it's a starter deck card, but I can consider Sylvie and Tristan Rico to be part of this one.
Yeah, Baby Gray Slime, my goat, finally found its way onto the ban list. So tragic.
Rest in peace.
But yeah, I mean, I
miss him every day.
have a personal soft spot for this card. But it's your opening hand, so you tell me why is Baby Gray Slime joining this illustrious hand.
So I love Juggle Knives, right? Any card that's a Juggle Knife is gonna go in my deck, and I think Baby Gray is probably the greatest Juggle Knife ally they have ever released. This card carried the entire Sylvie deck. Like the moment this card got banned, it's like the deck just fell off the face of the planet. Like obviously you got a top 8 with Sylvie recently.
Yeah.
So it's like the deck still works, but it's not the same. It is not the same, right? We can all attest to that.
Yeah, I've played that deck a bunch since they reprinted Baby Silver Slime, and I think every time I've resolved the Baby Silver Slime, it's always just been like, I mean, the card is fine. Like, the card makes the deck list, of course, but like, it's just not Baby Gray. He's just not him, doesn't have the source. And I think, I mean,
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for the slime deck, and if you like trinkets, if you like cantrips, like that deck is just so much. Every card in that deck replaces itself. Every card in that deck is like doing some small thing plus getting value, and it's so fun to play if you like that style of gameplay.
Like I know people really did not enjoy Sylvie, playing against Sylvie, but as someone who played Sylvie, I really love that deck because I just like how every single piece of that deck felt like it was like contributing to an overall game plan, and I feel like we don't get that a lot. I think a lot of Grand Archive decks feel kind of good stuff turbo to me.
Yeah, it's like
Right,
you
so
have
it's
your
like ally decks,
package
it's like,
into your
this
win
is good stuff,
condition,
right?
and it's like your packages are kind of
Yeah.
same feeling, and your win conditions are kind of same feeling sometimes. So I definitely get what you mean there.
Yeah, and that event, so this was MRC, so this was the first Ascent I did, which was Ascent Type A. So basically from CNATS and from doing like a bunch of regionals in the Philippines, through some connections, I was able to get into Ascent Type A as the caster. Because basically, I mean, some background information here. The people who ran the Ascent Type A stream were the people who did the streams in the Philippines. Because they didn't have anyone who could do it in Taiwan. So they just were like, hey, like, we know you run streams here in the Philippines. They just flew them out. Which is kind of why the stream was a bit scuffed. Because,
Yeah,
we're not a
right.
big production, right? So basically, it's like, okay, well, I'm the only caster in the Philippines, so they got me to do it. And that was my first Ascent. It was basically a solo cast. Technically, I had a caster, a co-caster, but they were not supposed to be there, and they were kind of forced into the role, like, on the day of.
Right, yeah.
And, obviously, that was the Tristan Sylvie meta. It's like everything was just playing Sylvie and Tristan. So I definitely, Baby Gray, close and dear to my heart, even if it didn't win the tournament. That tournament was won by Wind Allies, surprisingly.
Anyway, we'll keep pushing forward. So you've mentioned that you've been to a lot of events, you've casted a lot of events. Can you give me your favorite casting call or moment, either one that you've cast yourself or someone else on stream?
I think the favorite game I casted, the finals of CNATS, the most recent one. I think that was between Bob and I believe it was Steven from the US. I had not casted like for basically half a year or something at that point. Because I think CNATS was in like April. I felt incredibly rusty and I was casting with people that I had not cast with before.
Right.
So it was definitely scary. But then the tournament just like, it was good. Like there were a lot of great games. And I think that finals was, it's weird because I think the finals was just good in a vacuum. But I feel that I actually really elevated that game. And I think if that game was you were just watching it with no casters, it would not have been nearly as exciting as it ended up being. Because it was, I think, the energy that me and my co-caster Chrisome put into that one game for what would have been like the most resident sleeper matchup you could have possibly thought. I was like, wow, it's Fractals versus Firelux. Like, who thought this game would be exciting?
Yeah, right.
And it ended up becoming like one of the craziest games I've ever watched. That game really holds a special place in my heart. I'm really blessed that I happen to cast really good finals a lot of the time. I don't think I've ever cast like a bad one. Like I think the finals between Hachiko and Rubizilia for San Kuala Lumpur was really great too. The Auckland finals was really great too. Ascent Taipei this year was really great between APOL and Pro-Am. So been in the finals of every single event I've casted. So I kind of just want to keep that streak going. I don't want to have a bad finals, right? Because no one wants to watch to reach the end of a tournament and it's like a one-sided game.
I think I mean for me it's when you're attending an event, and especially if you're playing so much, by the time finals is on, like I think I already mentioned, like I play my last game, I get completely cooked, and then I don't even watch the finals, games, for the events that I'm playing. I am curious to go back and watch this Luxem Fractals game that you mentioned with the new lens. I think it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, I can also imagine some finals being pretty bad.
I think the worst one was probably it was Sylvie Tristan. I think it was Chicago. It was between Sean, Lift Giselle, and I can't remember. But it was Erupting versus Tristan. And it was Mad G on Erupting versus Sean, and like it was like over in 15 minutes.
Yeah, right.
He just got sliced and diced. I was like, oh, okay. That was really fast.
That's interesting.
It was like,
so would you prefer? Because I think the longest finals ever, I think, was Cabe and Uyong in Auckland, because that was like 3 hours or something. Would you prefer a 15-minute final or like a 3-hour final?
Well, it depends on what kind of 3-hour final is it, right? Where it's like if it's a 3-hour final that's exciting, yeah. But if it's a 3-hour final that's like 3 hours because the two decks are like steadily doing nothing to each other for like 10 turns straight, probably not. I think that's why I really enjoyed this one particular game, is because the ending turn, like the turn that ended the game was crazy. Because a lot of games it's like, oh, the ending turn, it's kind of like it's obvious, you see it coming from a mile away. It's like, okay, but this is a game where it's like either player really could have won, and like literally it came down to a lot of like 50-50 banishes off of level ups.
That's cool. That's hype. That's hype.
Yeah, it's like it's like getting like draws off the top of the deck, like random banishing. It's like that's the kind of stuff where it's like you get super amped for it, and like when both players could win, that's really when it gets exciting. I think, for instance, the Auckland finals, I think the first two games are good, but the third game was like, okay, but just drew like really bad. And like, he made it close, but it kind of felt like cooked from the start when he went Marvel Vanguard paths. Yeah. I was like, oh, unfortunately, like the ending is gonna be kind of anticlimactic. So I really like it when the finals is like, this is like a crazy game that like anyone could have won if a few things changed, right?
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear about, because I imagine that's probably one of the harder moments to cast, is when you can feel like a player gets an advantage and then you can see the game slip out, and then you have to spend the entire game, especially if it's like a slow deck trying to close it out, the entire game talking about like finding things to talk about when really the game feels like it's been over for a long time. But I guess to ask the actual question, what to you is the most difficult part of casting a match? I'm imagining times like, people go to end phase and they think about what to materialize for like 10-15 seconds, and that can be hard to fill. I'm imagining like judge calls or tech issues, but yeah, for you, what do you think is the hardest part of casting?
I'm gonna be real with you. This might just be a me thing. I actually find casting very easy. It's just like, it's not hard for me to just talk. I can just, you could just get me talking forever and ever and ever, and I'll never stop. For me, I think the hardest part about casting is actually coordinating with your co-caster, especially if it's someone you haven't worked with before, or someone who's like, you just don't really jive well with. Not necessarily like, you don't like them. It's just like, I feel like your styles or your personalities aren't like in sync. To me, that's like the hardest part about casting. That's actually why a lot of times I actually like solo casting, because I don't have to worry about it. The moment you have another person there, you just have to start considering them, right? It's like you have to think about, are you overpowering them? Are you getting overpowered by them? Are you like giving them on ramps to come in? Or like, how is your synergy? Are you talking over each other? That's the stuff that gets to me, just because I kind of have a tendency to talk over people and to talk a lot. So when I have to think about someone else, especially if I have a reserved co-caster, someone who doesn't talk that much, it's really hard for me, because now I have to start worrying where it's like, oh, I need to try and give them space, but if they don't take the space I give them, then there's dead air. So now I'm like, okay, well, I can't really trust them to take the space that I'm trying to pass onto them. So it's like, now I have to just keep talking and talking, and then suddenly they want to come in, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know you were gonna come in. To me, that's really the hard part. And I think one of the most important things is making sure that all of you, your 3 casters or more, I guess you can have an event with more than 3, but typically it's 3, having like synergy and having like mutual understanding, having like signals and like understanding your position and like what you're supposed to do is a really important thing, I think. Obviously, everyone does things differently, and like necessarily your synergy with your caster is like gonna be based on the individual pairing. But I think, really you see those games where it's like, oh, these two particular people work really well with each other. But if you take them apart and give them other people, it's like it might not be the same.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's pretty, I think, well established. If you look at, I mean, I also follow other games, and if you look at casters in sports or esports or anything, it's pretty common for there to be like casting duos, where these people, are typically cast together, they build a rapport, they know each other's styles, they know, roughly the things that they are good at and want to come in on. And they're good at setting each other up, to your point of like just being able to have the conversation go back and forth and know that the other person will pick up on the point that you're trying to make and bring it home. And stuff like that can be really, really important. But I'm sure, yeah, casting with new people can be very difficult, but I also imagine it can be very rewarding as well. So to you, what is the most enjoyable aspect of, attending and casting at these events?
I'm gonna be real with you. My favorite part about going to events is not really anything to do with the production itself. My favorite part about going to events is seeing people, is meeting new people, seeing old friends. I've made a lot of good friends from going to these events, and really like I just like being there in like the event. Like even if I wasn't a caster, I just want to go just for the sake of being there because I enjoy like the energy and I like just having conversations with people and new people. Like I think going to Auckland, for instance, it was like I met a lot of really really nice people in Auckland. Honestly, Auckland was kind of an event where I wasn't really that excited for it, to be honest, because I think I was like really busy with school and I was a little bit bummed about like Akihabara. So I was like, oh, I was not like super feeling it. But the moment I got there, it's like all the people I met, everyone was super nice. Obviously, I met Felicity for the second time, and I'm like, oh, we became really close there. So it was like, oh, this is really great, and it kind of reinvigorated my passion for like doing this.
Yeah, I think that's the most common answer. I think I've asked a bunch of different people, what's the best part of Ascent? And the answer is always seeing people, meeting, people that you met in the past, and meeting new people. And I think especially for me, as I've met more and more people, and these days I can walk around the event, and it's really hard not to run into someone that I recognize these days, because I've just been to half a dozen, and other people have also been to the same ones, and I'll just walk around and spot someone and be like, oh hey, how's your games going, how's your day going, whatever it is, and catch up for just 5 minutes, and it's a lot of fun to just be there, soak in the atmosphere, and then also grabbing dinner, hanging out with people afterwards, all of the good stuff. It's the number one reason to go, and if you haven't been to an Ascent, strongly recommend that you go. And if you've been to one, go to another one and run to the same people that you met in the first one, and have a good time with it. I'm gonna pull us back to your opening hand though, because it's time to pull out card number 5, joining GCR, Incendiary Fractal, Globespire Black Market, and Baby Grey Slime. So if I'm keeping track correctly, we're up to A and B.
Yes, A and B. So this card is going to be a little bit of a break from the trend here. I think, like I mentioned this card a lot on stream, so maybe some people know that I really love it. The choice is going to be Brisk Windtrotter.
Brisk Windtrotter. I'm very curious now. Is this because this card is just a 2-mana 3/3 and it's broken, or is it because we love horses in the equestrian package?
Why can't it be both? So, I mean, me, obviously, I love horses. For some reason, just got really attached to this card. I can't really tell you why. It's like the moment I saw it, when it got spoiled, I was like, oh, this card's crazy. And I was just like failing everyone on Trotter. And I think initially, you see like not many people were on it. And then over time, a bunch of these wind decks, for example, like Seiryu, started to play Trotter. It's like a lot of these like Wind Eye decks started to play Trotter, and then me, I'm a huge proponent of Ears. Beast Spawn Ears with Trotters. It's like you sit at level 1, bring out Ears, and you just trot, and suddenly you get to give 2 buff counters. I love that it's an on-enter, which means you can like recycle it, you reclaim it, you ace it back in hand, you Zephyr it. I really, really like Suppress. I just love flickering things. So any card that has like a Suppress effect or an on-enter that's like really strong, to me is just like, I just love that stuff. So Trotter to me is like perfect, because not only is it a horse, and I love horses, but 2, it's like, it has all these weird little synergies and like stupid little things you can do with it. And the moment someone drops like a big ally or like a hard to remove ally, like a Cheshire or like one of those like stealth allies, and you just Trotter it like 2 times, and it's like, oh, this thing's unkillable, and I'm just losing the game on this one.
When Seiryu plays like a Dream Fairy, and it's like, okay, that's fine, and then they play a Trotter, and suddenly they have like a 3/4 with stealth. It's like a Frostwind Paladin with stealth, and you're like, hold up, this is impossible to kill. It's crazy. Yeah, I think you're completely right though. Like this card, I think went super under the radar for a really long time. I think because like the cards is like level 2+, and people are like, oh, my allies deck's getting to level 2, like it's really hard. But then you read the card and it's like, it's for stats, it's a 2-mana 2/2, right? Baseline, 2-mana 3/3, which is how broken is that if you get to level 2+. And then it's also got like reclaim value. You mentioned, suppress, displace value, whatever that is. And the card itself is just really, really strong. Personally, one of my favorite cards in the game is Empowering Prayer. And so I loved the idea of prereq empowering prayer into like windmill trotter, and then you just have like a 3/3 windmill engineer, and they're like, hold up, like how do you beat this now?
I'm gonna be real with you. I was also considering Empowering Prayer onto this list of 7 because I also love that card. So I play Arsana as one of my main decks. So I always remember, Fragmented Spirit.
I love
Empowering Prayer.
Fragmented
I was thinking
Spirit.
of every single combination.
That's my favorite. Fragmented Spirit Empowering Prayer was like the number one cook that I keep going back to that never actually like is good enough to bring, but I keep building decks that have the
some
idea.
people played it.
Yeah, that's so cool.
There were
That's
some
so
tournaments where people were playing Fragmented Empowering Prayer.
That's really cool. That's
So,
I love the
it
idea. I
exists.
love the lists, and then you just try and fit in like as many like level 2 plus, level 3 plus effects in. Like, I just love the concept so much, even though it just always feels like it's not consistent enough, even with Fragmented Spirit Glimpse. But yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Good to see Trotter make it. Also, good to see Trotter sneaking into a lot more decks these days, with especially Seru being the main culprit. Let's dive a little into gender representation. The first thing I want to ask is, how do you think that Grand Archive does when it comes to growing the girl side of the scene?
They try, for sure. They try. They have girls' nights during some of the ascents. Fact that one of like the prominent casters and like community figures, which is Clem, that's really nice. And I think they do things to help, but at the same time, it's still a card game, and I think in that end, it's just not a space that is super welcoming. Not necessarily because people are like, they're sexist or they're like they make things hard for people. I think it just is something where if there's not a lot of girls here, it's less likely for more girls to want to come in. It's just generally a more like male dominated hobby. So that's why I think we see some difficulty with like getting more female rep in. I do definitely appreciate them putting in more hot men characters. I think that does draw in some people, Shirtless Tony.
Shirtless Tony is the number one.
Kaze, I think the fire, the wind spirit. It's like, I think just giving some of that balance in there, getting in some hot dudes. I know we all love waifus, but it's nice to have some rep on both sides. I mean, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I have definitely seen in like some of my local communities some rather unsettling things said or like shared around, and that culture I think just needs to. If you see something that you think is not okay, I think it's really important that you call it out and you make sure that people are respectful of everyone, right? Not just like women, just like in general. You just have to be respectful of all people and just being like accommodating to all kinds of people. Really, I really don't stand for like any kind of like bigotry stuff. If you see something you don't like, just like sitting there and like doing nothing, it really doesn't help anyone, and it makes a lot of people turn off from a game when they see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes for everything, right? Like us as a community, we're building the space that we want to have, and the like how the community as a whole kind of acts in response to these things is shapes the people that join, right? And so if we're accepting of bigotry or sexism or whatever, then those types of people will show up more and more in these spaces. And if we don't, then we can get that out of here, and we can have a much more accepting scene, as long as the general atmosphere or the community as a whole kind of pushes in that direction. But yeah, so what do you think are the main challenges, right, for girls getting into playing, casting, or otherwise breaking into a male dominant space like the GA scene is?
Well, yeah, the first thing is probably just that there's not many of them. So it's like, I think birds of a feather like to flock together, right? So it's like, obviously, I think it's very natural for girls to kind of like come as a group. So if there's not many, you might not feel as welcomed or as safe. I think number 2, people can tend to be a little bit more critical of girls. I think we all know it. There's the stereotype card gamers. They see a girl and it's like, oh, like the one girl in the room, and everyone kind of like thirsts over them. So I think that's another thing where it's like, oh, you have like that feeling of like, oh, what if I'm like the only girl here? It's like suddenly it's like I might get like untoward advances. So I think obviously just like try and be a little bit of respectful of people, right? Like this is a card game tournament. We're not here to like pick people up. As far as like the content creation side, like casting and all that stuff, it's just hard to break in general. And I think since there's not many girls, that's why we don't see that many. And I do think that people can tend to be a little bit less charitable to female individuals. It's like, you can have a guy and a girl and they're like similar levels of quality in terms of their output in let's say in casting. But sometimes some people are just meaner. I'm gonna be real with you. They can just be meaner to girls for some reason. And I mean, it's a bit unfortunate, but that's why we gotta like push for people to be a little bit more welcoming, a little bit more accommodating.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like the same problem that you see in a lot of other, things like gaming generally.
Yeah.
The STEM like field and university and jobs and all that stuff. But hopefully we see girls' night at more events. We see spaces that are catered towards that a bit more, and hopefully grow the girls' player base more than we currently do. I know in Sydney, it's I think to speak to what you're saying, we have very few girls in Sydney, and then the ones that show up, we'll have like someone show up for a few weeks, and then like they're having a good time. It feels like for most of the time, but then because they're the only girl showing up to locals a few weeks in a row, it can I assume feel very maybe lonely is not the right word, but
Alienating.
yeah, it's just I don't really have the words for it myself, but I can definitely imagine that like it's very very weird and not I guess the normal space that they hang out in. So yeah, hopefully we see that flip a little bit more. Do your best, try not to be weird, and
Literally just be normal. Like
yeah.
challenge level impossible. Just be a regular human being.
Okay. All right. With that, maybe we will push forward on to card number 6 to join your opening hand. Second to last, joining GCR, Incendiary Fractal, Globespy Black Market, Baby Grey Slime, and Brisk Windtrotter.
Okay, so this is going to be my HVN card choice, and it is going to be Striking Illuminance.
Interesting. So we have an attack card in here, and it's the shiny new Luxem attack that gains power for every Luxem card in your memory. This is quite the deviation from the cards that you picked so far. So tell me, what is this doing on your list here?
So this card is here mostly because of sentimental reasons. During CNATS this year, that was the year where obviously True Sight actually that was like the one of the few events where True Sight actually like showed up. Like we have like some day twos. We have one top 8 and like a couple day twos. But this was an event where it's like, oh, one of us made it to Worlds. I was not in a million years ever expecting us to ever accomplish anything like that. And so the reason why it's Striking Luminance is because literally so of the 3 players we had, 2 of them, Impulse chose Luxem out of nowhere. Literally, they've never played Luxem before. The Impulse chose Luxem like 3 days before the event or something. And we were all like, are you sure you want to do this? And they made it work, and they were playing Striking Luminance. Also, as part of that event, obviously the finals with Bob versus Steven and Striking Illuminance is what won that game, right? It's like it was a crazy Striking Illuminance line. So I just have a lot of I really have a lot of good memories of that one event. So and I feel like Striking Illuminance being like, oh, it was in 2 of our players' deck, and of course it was in the finals. So it's just a card I really hold near and dear to my heart. Even though I also am a Luxem player, by the way. So if I see
That's
a Luxem
cool.
card, I like it. I like all Luxem cards.
That's a crazy thing to do before Nats, by the way. Like, change your deck last minute, and also I feel like that was like in the not the peak, but nearing the peak of Fractals meta, where like Luxem had a pretty terrible matchup versus Fractals, in my opinion. But glad it worked out for them, and I'm sure always really really nice to see your friends do well. So it makes a lot of sense to see this card on your list, where you guys took out a crazy national performance, did really really well. True Sight did.
Yeah,
So.
and guess what? They decided to play Luxem again in Worlds, and then they bombed. So I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it was a fluke. I'm gonna be real, it's kind of a fluke, but
Well, Fractals was also all over World, so I imagine if you brought Luxem
and Genbu.
and Gambu, oh my god, yeah, it's a nightmare. It's actually a nightmare.
And actually, there was another iconic. Okay, just to gas myself up a little bit. If you look at the Grand Archive channel, you go to their shorts. A lot of those clips, I'm in them, and a lot of them are from CNAT or Set Kuala Lumpur.
I definitely
or, like,
remember
some-
the what's it called? The when the friendly fire is turned on clip, and it's the
Yeah, so-
double mill lightweavers off the top.
Yeah, so those 2, so those are True Sight members. One of their brothers. So it was like the fact that his brother double milled Lightweaver's Assault off of a bovine attack was just like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. So just I definitely have a lot of I feel like that might be my favorite event I've attended. It's probably CNATS. We were doing so well. Everyone was so excited.
I mean, events are definitely better when you're winning or the people that you like are winning. So
Oh, for sure.
winning is much more fun than losing. If you aren't aware of that, like it's winning is a lot more fun. All right. As we wind down a little bit here, do you have any advice that you would want to give to anyone that wants to get into casting, or maybe even just into GA generally speaking?
I think breaking into casting can be a bit hard because at least based on the current structures we have now, you kind of just get asked to cast an event, right? I guess if you want to, you could just cold ask, but at the same time, a lot of it comes down to getting referred. But the thing about the GA casting scene is that it's very small, and there's a lot of people who come in, they do one event, and then they never come back. So honestly, we are really not at the point where it's like impossible to get a gig, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
the main thing is you need to have something to show. So if you just come in like, hey, I want to cast, but you have nothing, like you have never, like, no footage, no events, just like have a reel that you can give. So you can just take footage from streams or maybe your locals if you have some way of recording and just casting over them, just so you have something to show your ability. Because if you just ask, like, hey, I want to cast, I mean, it worked for me just because there was like literally no one there. But imagine it's like, you know, you can't just go up to someone and be like, let me do this thing, and then like you literally have no basis to know whether they're actually good at it or not. So I think it's really important to do that. And I think also just having gumption, just being like willing to ask. Like I'm really bad with this, where I don't like asking people for things, or I don't like asserting myself a little bit. But just have like the confidence in yourself. Just be willing to like kind of take your shot. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, of course, of course. All right, and then what's next for you? You mentioned finishing studies, but yeah, what's next for you in life in Grand Archive? Anything that you want to talk about?
After Worlds this year, I was kind of not sure if I wanted to continue Grand Archive commentary. I felt very demotivated because I didn't get into Worlds. And then also like after Akihabara, not getting to Akihabara, I felt a part of me was thinking, do I really have like a future in this space? But after Auckland, I felt definitely reinvigorated because I just had such a good time during Auckland. For me, I see myself continuing doing this. Obviously, in the end, it's like I don't really have too much control over that. If I stop getting asked to do events, I get getting asked to do events. But yeah, it's like I'm gonna continue doing casting as long as they keep picking me, really. I'm not a very confident person. I usually don't think very highly of myself, but I do think I am one of the better casters in the game. I hope I get to continue doing this for a long time.
Yeah. I hope so too. I mean, I watched back the game that I played on stream in Auckland a couple times. I loved your caster there. I think you're definitely one of my top casters in the game too. So definitely hope you stick around. But let's bring it home. What's the last card that'll be joining your opening hand? Again, joining Grand Crusader's Ring, Incendiary Fractal, Gloomspire Black Market, Baby Grey Slime, Brisk Windtrotter, and Striking Illuminance.
Okay, so this is another card this is a deck I love to talk about that no one plays. It's gonna be Chrysalis Hazy Caterpillar.
Yes. Alright, I'll be honest, your list is absolutely full of cards that I love, and that is fantastic. I think the only card here that I'm not a huge fan of is Gloomspire Black Market, but that's because I'm coin flip, Gloomspire Black Market's biggest hater and number one fan, depending on the day. But anyway, we'll stick to Chrysalis. There's so many reasons to love this card, but you give me your reasons. Why is this on the list here?
So I mean, with Trotter, I think most people can tell I love suppressing things. I love recycling on-enter effects. So Chrysalis is one of those cards where I think it's just the applications are so cool. It's basically baby green, but like you can target more things. And the only problem with the card really is that it's CL locked. If this card could be played in other win decks, you absolutely would see it get played in other win decks, right? And I really love the win CL deck. I mean, I know we did see a WinCL make it into top 8 of the Sydney Regionals, so I'm really happy to see. Actually, no, I think it was 10th, right?
Oh,
so
yeah, no, I think it was just outside. Yeah, it was just outside.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I really love that deck, and Chrysalis is like my favorite part of the deck because I love seeing Chrysalis loop Asons over and over again, loop Trotters over and over again, loop Zhangshao, things like that. It's just like the versatility of this card where it's like, it's an ally, so you can reclaim it, you can just keep reusing it. You know, it's very much in like the baby green angle, but the fact that I can target allies really opens it up to like getting these crazy on-enter effects over and over again.
Yeah.
So I really love Alice in Wonderland, so I was really a big fan of like the theme of this set and the next set, having like these like characters that I've grown to love, like Mad Hatter and like Alice. It's just really nice to see them. And Chrysalis is just like, I don't know, I just really like her vibe. Just smoking a pipe, Caterpillar, suppresses things, suppresses my Trotter, so you know it's perfect.
Yeah, I think the theming of Grand Archive has been really cool because we had the like Arturian Legends. We had the Three Kingdoms, and then, you know, now with Alice in Wonderland, you can see a lot of like, it's not like attached to an IP, but it's still getting the draw of like these well-known stories or characters that you get to see in the game. But yeah, I love Chrysalis myself. I know when the set released, Christian and I did a live stream of us reacting or talking about every card in the game, and my Chrysalis reaction was like, at first it was like, oh, this is like, it's like Baby Green Slime, but it's like so much worse than Baby Green Slime, right? Like, you need 2 omens, it's CL locked, like, it's a unique ally. And then I was like, wait, it's a unique ally. This is a fast speed unique ally. Oath of the Sakura, and then you read it again, and it's like, it can suppress allies? Wait, this card is like Baby Green Slime, but infinitely better. This card is so broken. I love this card, and like the like infinite Asin combo where you can like you flash in Chrysalis, you suppress the Asin, and then if they don't kill the Chrysalis end phase, the Asin comes back and you bounce the Chrysalis back to your hand. And if they can't do 5 damage in one turn, you can do that literally every turn for the rest of the game if you want. I love Chrysalis. Really cool to see it here. And it feels like, I mean, it seems like you like a lot of the same things that I do in cards. So that's this is a really fun opening hand, and I love to see it. So once again, we're looking at Grand Crusader's Ring, Incendiary Fractal, Gloomspire Black Market, Baby Grey Slime, Brisk Windtrotter, Striking Illuminance, and Chrysalis Hazy Caterpillar in Flonne's opening hand.
Not the most synergistic hand, I'll say so.
Not the most synergistic, but every one of these cards is a banger, for sure. Alright.
I mean, I'm really looking forward to the next set because I'm already seeing a lot of stuff I'm interested in. I'm really looking forward to Alice. I'm really looking forward to Chessman, even though I'm not convinced yet, but I would love to see that deck be a thing. There's one thing I can say about myself. I just love bad decks that like do weird gimmicky things. I'm super into that, so I love seeing them like ramp up like the masteries and like the weird cards, like the pawn turning into a queen. I'm like, this is so cool. I don't know. I hope somebody can make it work, right?
I like the idea of Chessman. I think a lot of people like the idea of Chessman. I know people were trying to play like Lily and Castling Boon, just with just the 2 cards, and it's like definitely not good enough by itself. But like it's already kind of cool, and I think the Spectre stuff definitely looks a lot scarier than the Chessman stuff so far. But hopefully Chessman's a fun cook. We just got some more Knight spoiled. I think we still have bishops coming. So, but with that, I think we'll get into our lightning round. So, got 17 questions for you. Just throw out an answer. No takebacks. No defensive justification.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Alright. Best Divine Relic.
QSG.
Best card art.
Astral Seal.
Favorite deck.
Astra Arsana. Wind Astra Arsana.
Least favorite deck.
Merlin.
Budget or whale.
Budget.
Net deck or homebrew.
Net deck.
Best set of Grand Archive.
FTC.
Single or double sleeve.
Single. I hate double sleeve.
Best champion.
Benares.
Favorite basic element.
Wind.
Constructed or limited.
Ooh. Constructed.
Aggro, mid-range, control, or combo.
Mid-range.
Best unique ally.
Oh my god, there's so many of them.
There's a lot of them. This is the hard one.
Chrysalis.
Yeah. Right. Basic, serene, fragmented, fortuitous.
Serene.
Pile shuffling, yes or no?
Yeah, I do it. I pile shuffle. I do all the shuffles. Except for Ridge. I think if you Ridge shuffle, you're free.
Yeah, okay. Packs or singles?
Singles.
Alright, and favorite advanced element?
Astra.
Alright. Thank you so much, Flonne, for joining us. That wraps us up here for our second episode of Authentic Encounters. Any shoutouts you want to give?
Well, I mean, obviously shout out to you guys. Thank you for having me. I think you guys are doing a great job with the channel. I want to give a shout out to True Sight, my team. We always talk about becoming content creators, but no one actually wants to do it, so don't expect much. Shout out to everyone going to Akihabara. I hope you all have a good time. And I'm gonna be like Squidward looking out the window at all you having fun. While I'm just here, like playing Hades or something. Shout out to Felicity. Go buy her stuff. Please pre-order because the unexpected Japanese no buying and selling cards in the venue rule. You gotta pre-order so that they actually know how much stuff they have to bring with them. Shout out to all my co-casters I've worked with. Shout out to the production staff I've worked with on my events. Worked with many different people and they're all wonderful. And yeah, just shout out to all the players and to Reeves of the Shore, of course, for making this great game.
Yep, of course. If people want to find you, if there's anything you want to plug, where should people look if they want to follow what you're doing?
Oh no, I mean like I have a Twitter and I don't post at all. Like they link it and people follow me and I'm like I'm never gonna post anything on here. So it's honestly, I don't really have anything to plug. I am basically like a ghost online. Literally, you'll only ever see me on a Grand Archive stream.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like on the video, maybe subscribe. Between Auckland, Aki, PTM, we have a bunch of stuff coming up. So if you're interested in catching any of that, make sure you're following the channel. Anyway, thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the next one.